This panel sits there the entire time not talking about the terrorist motives. This is another example of the shameful and dangerous suppression of the key motive the terrorists had for the 9/11 attacks: U.S. support for Israel. It is a disgrace that Terry McDermott sat there saying nothing about U.S. support of Israel. He was too cowardly to talk about the key motive for 9/11. He knows U.S. support for Israel was the key motive for the 9/11 attacks. After the 9/11 report was released, he wrote an article about it. He reported that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the man who conceived and directed the September 11th attacks, was motivated by his strong disagreement with American support for Israel, said the final report of the September 11th Commission. That fact did make it onto page 147 of the 9/11 report, in spite of pressure to keep it out. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, or KSM for short, was angered at the United States not because of his experiences here. He even went to school here. What he was angry about is U.S. foreign policy favoring Israel. The authors on this panel are not willing to mention this fact. Brian Michael Jenkins doesn't mention it. Ignoring what Khalid Sheikh Mohammed has actually said, Jenkins falsely claims he said, "War is life."
They will make themselves part of this eternal brotherhood of warriors, a warrior subculture. It is an appealing narrative that they can make themselves part of in this epic struggle, as Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the man who planned 9/11, put it so succinctly: war is life.
Actually, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed put it succinctly in 2003. He felt strongly that U.S. support of Israel was wrong and could be corrected by attacking the United States. As far as his recent statements about war, you can read the Defense Department transcript for yourself and see that Jenkins is misrepresenting what Khalid Sheikh Mohammed said. I'll put this link to the transcript in the video description. Even Fox News doesn't twist the tone of the transcript from regret to enthusiasm the way Jenkins does. But Fox does omit the motive. If Fox quoted the next few sentences, they could have made the viewers aware of the motive for 9/11, to stop the U.S. government's foreign policy in the Middle East. Jenkins is both misquoting and misrepresenting Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's words about war. Contrary to how Jenkins characterized it, KSM was talking about how war started from Adam when Cain killed Abel and continues up until today. He was saying that the killing of people is never going to stop. He was saying this is the way of the language. He was listing wars that the United States had engaged in. He was saying war is a never-ending fact of life. You can see he wasn't saying war is life, as Jenkins claimed. Don't take the word of guys like Jenkins about what terrorists have said. Check the transcripts and the public declarations for yourself. Jenkins and others deceive the public, serving an agenda run by people who don't want you to know why we are being attacked. Another person on this panel who is playing the game of suppressing the motive of anger at U.S. support for Israel is Jeffrey Goldberg, a self-described Zionist.
As a fervent young Zionist, and when I joined the Israeli army.
To avoid discussing the main motive, Goldberg and the rest of the panel talk about things like this.
And he's a religious Muslim, and he was offended by the number of liquor stores.
Instead of talking about specific foreign policies, like U.S. support of Israel, he's insisting the problem is that America is a whispering temptation to consume alcohol.
Whispering temptations, and this is what really upsets people who come from a culture we don't fully understand, a culture that really takes the separation of sexes seriously, really takes issues like alcohol seriously, really takes child rearing differently than we do, and we have to grapple with this idea that sometimes culturally we just don't understand each other, and the more we understand, the less we actually like of each other.
Keep in mind, this is his response to a woman who asked, what are the issues that enraged the 9/11 hijackers? He is lying to the audience about what motivates the terrorism towards the United States. Michael Scheuer, former chief of the CIA's Bin Laden unit, explains it isn't about the things Goldberg claims it is.
It's very clear that most Muslims don't consider gender equality or whiskey or movies or elections a dire threat to their families and a life and death issue. But they very clearly see our support for Israel, our support for the dictators that rule them, as an offense against both themselves and against their faith.
They don't hate us, according to you, because of our values, but because of our policies in the Middle East. Is that?
And their impact, yes, sir.
And their impact.
And
what policies in particular?
Unqualified support for Israel?
Very early in his career and very consistently, bin Laden has been outspoken in support of the Palestinians and, of course, condemning the Israelis. So it's an issue that clearly weighs heavily on his mind and is motivating.
Coming up is the most outrageous part. Leo Brody, the moderator, cuts off questions from the audience.
And the less we actually like of each other.
Let me ask, we only have a few minutes left, and I'm sorry to cut off questions from the audience, but...
What lack of respect for the audience after just a single question. He says there's only a few minutes left, yet he finds time for himself to ask 2 more questions. When does a panel discussion ever end? Go to the Q&A and then go back to the moderator asking even more questions of the panel. I think Brody had a clue the next questioner was going to ask about the motive. When Brody cuts off questions, the man whose turn it was to ask the next question points out what Brody and the panel have been avoiding. And look what Brody does.
Let me ask, we only have a few minutes left, and I'm sorry to cut off questions from the audience, but let me just ask you...
Support for Israel that got us attacked on 9/11.
Sit down. I'd like to add, after that...
He says, after that, it was support for Israel that got us attacked on 9/11. U.S. support for Israel was the main motive. He's acting like U.S. support of Israel had nothing to do with it. Who does this guy think he is? How dare he tell him to sit down? And these devious authors can just sit there? None of them had the courage to say, well, yeah, the man in the audience is pointing out the main motive for the 9/11 attacks. To deny this is depraved.
Bin Laden had been pressuring KSM for months to advance the attack date. According to KSM, bin Laden had even asked that the attacks occur as early as mid-2000, after Israeli opposition party leader Ariel Sharon caused an outcry in the Middle East by visiting a sensitive and contested holy site in Jerusalem, sacred to both Muslims and Jews. Although bin Laden recognized that Atta and the other pilots had only just arrived in the United States to begin their flight training, the al-Qaeda leader wanted to punish the United States for supporting Israel. The al-Qaeda leader wanted to punish the United States for supporting Israel. The al-Qaeda leader wanted to punish the United States for supporting Israel. He allegedly told KSM it would be sufficient simply to down the planes and not hit specific targets.
It is depraved to deny the main motive for the 9/11 attacks. This can't continue. Please send this video to everyone you can. We can't allow elites like Brody to do this to us. One action we can take is to get this video massive publicity in order to denounce the authors on this panel. Take a look at the link I am putting in the video info for things you can do for the public campaign to expose this. If you have a suggestion for actions we can take, please leave a comment to this video. We don't have to let them continue to get away with this. Let's make the campaign to expose what they are doing big. Take a look at this link to help get the word out about this campaign to stop the miserable agenda of suppressing the 9/11 motives. Please take the time to visit the link I put in the video info to take action so we can put an end to this outrage, which puts our lives at risk. I'm going to put a video at that page which will talk about specific actions we can take.